Well, joining us now on Encounter is the Executive Director of the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation, Jim Wahlberg, and thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, please, thank you for having me.
Could you take us back a little bit and tell us about the beginnings of the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation, how that began?
Sure. So about 15 years ago, we were preparing to do a premiere of The Planet of the Apes. And a friend of ours, Father Jim Flavin, came and said, listen, I just got transferred to St. Edith Steins in Brockton, and our gym is a complete wreck, and it's really the centerpiece of the community. There's really no other safe place for the kids to hang around. Can you guys help us? And that was it. That was the actual beginnings. That was the reason we started the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation. And yeah, it was 15 years ago. We rebuilt the gym, and it was a great way to kick this off. In 15 years, we've done quite a bit, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah. And I know through that and through your personal experience too, you've been involved in recovery as well. And I just want to talk a little bit about the situation now, especially in this New England region, the opioid epidemic. You know, fentanyl is coming, and there are many deaths going on. And yeah, I just read something the other day too about even more powerful drug than fentanyl coming into play too. To talk about what's going on, why is this taking hold around the country?
Wow, that's a big question, and it's a big issue, and it's a huge problem. You know, I think that, well, let me just say this. There were 59,000 overdose deaths in the United States of America last year. That's actually more Americans than died in the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War lasted approximately 10 years. I'm not much of a historian, I apologize. But in Massachusetts, we had somewhere in the area of about 2,000 overdose deaths. I mean, the thing is it's completely out of control. We had an Opioid Youth Summit. It's an event that this kind of event has never been done. We had 10,000 kids at Manchester in the AT&T Center. And we had the Attorney General of the United States. We had guys from the New England Patriots, had musical guests. We had 250 parents there that lost their children. You know, this is a huge problem, and we need to attack it in a big, big way, right? And I think that education is critical, right? So we know that people need treatment, people need their faith. I think a big part of what's going on in our country really has to do with the fact that we've taken God out of everything, right? You're not allowed to pray in school anymore. You're not allowed to pray in public. I mean, it's crazy, but it's the big missing piece, I think. So, you know, when people are crazy enough to hand me a microphone and let me talk, and, you know, I say, hey, if you're going to give me the microphone, I'm going to tell you what I believe. And what I believe is we need to bring God back into this. We need our faith leaders, right? And we need our faith leaders in such a huge way. This thing is beyond an epidemic, right? When during the Republican debates, right? There was like 4 or 5 candidates, because there was like 100 of them in the beginning, right? But there were like 4 or 5 of them that were talking in a very personal way. Carly Fiorina lost a child to an overdose. Chris Christie, who's been, I think, a great advocate for change in this particular area, his best friend lost a kid. So, I mean, this is not like a secret. This is not like it's in the back alleys. This is everybody knows somebody. And, you know, another thing that I think has been very helpful is the way law enforcement has taken a new look at this thing, right? So originally, they were just trying to arrest their way out of this problem, right? Because that's the mentality, that's the understanding, is you're breaking the law, we're going to arrest you. And now, you know, you have police chiefs that say, hey, if you present yourself here to my police station and you tell me you're a drug addict and you need help, I'm going to find you help, right? I mean, that's amazing. That's beautiful. So there's a lot of great things happening, but I got to be honest, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. I fear that the numbers are going to continue to go up. I feel like we need to get a hold of, this thing started with pharmaceutical medications, right? Pain medications. Pain medications that were initially intended for people in hospice care are now being prescribed to somebody who got their wisdom teeth taken out or got pulled a hamstring. People that have never exhibited any kind of addictive personality traits or problems and living charmed lives are being turned into full-blown drug addicts in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and we see that too. I know you put together a movie, If Only, and that you take it out to many different conferences that you do and speaking engagements too. Talk about that, how important it is, to reach kids before they even get to a situation where they're going to be faced with that decision,
Well, I mean, I think when I look at what we're doing with the movie If Only, so we made the movie If Only about 2 years ago, and it's kind of one kid's journey through experimenting with drugs. And we made the movie, and I'd love to say I had this great big plan that we were going to do all of these things, but we're going to make a movie, right? And hopefully a few people would watch it, and then we'd move on to the next one. Well, it's 2.5 years later, and I'm still walking around showing this movie. I've been all over the country. I've personally shown the movie to about 250,000 people. Wow. And, we want to get the kids as young as possible. So a lot of times, we don't solicit screenings. People come to us and they say, hey, there's enough going on out there where people are looking for tools. But I have difficulty sometimes with superintendents of schools. I say, junior high. This is for junior high. Yeah. Because in junior high school, kids they're not so worried about what the person next to them thinks about them yet. They're not caught up in that yet, right? There's a certain level of innocence there, right? And they're engaged in conversations. But I want to tell you that when I go into a junior high school and I say to 800 kids, by show of hands, who knows somebody personally or knows of somebody who's died from an overdose, please raise your hand. 80% of the kids in a junior high school raise their hands. That's scary. Yeah. I never knew of anybody that died from an overdose until I was in my 20s. Yeah. And I grew up in Dorchester, which was a tough town. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's out of control. My thought process in terms of getting to the kids as young as possible is similar to the way I think we really fought tobacco in this country. I remember my own kids, like we'd go out to a restaurant, and this was quite a few years ago now. My two youngest will be 21 next month. But we'd go out to a restaurant, an outdoor restaurant, and someone would be smoking at one of the tables, and they'd start making this really annoying, loud coughing noise, right? And this was a tool that they learned in school, right? Yeah. And it was a concerted effort to fight tobacco. I think the way we beat this thing with the kids, I think they influenced their parents to stop smoking. Dad, you're going to die. It's disgusting, please. And so that is sort of the thought process behind getting to these kids as young as possible, trying to help them to make healthy choices and helping them to use peer pressure as a positive thing, right? Because at a certain point, we know that our kids are not listening to us anymore. There's a period of time for a few years where we're talking and we sound like the teacher on Charlie Brown. Yeah. But they're listening to each other, right? And they have a lot of influence over each other, and they can really make a difference. Sometimes I'll be in a school and I'll see two kids sitting very close to each other in the front row or one of, wherever they're sitting. And I can clearly see that they're very close friends. And I'll walk up to them and I'll say, you guys are friends, huh? Yeah, I'll say, you guys best friends? Yes, we're best friends. I'll say, you probably know things about each other that nobody else in the world will ever know. You plan on taking it to the grave with you when your time comes. Absolutely, yeah, that's correct. I said, what are you going to do if your friend starts doing drugs, right? You're going to be put into a position where you're going to have to violate this so-called trust that you have with each other, or you're going to have to go to their funeral. And that's a tough choice to make, but would you rather this person be mad at you, or would you rather see them be buried? And it's a tough choice. Kids shouldn't be having to make those kind of choices, And God forbid, parents, we're not supposed to be burying our kids. We were in New Hampshire. We had 10,000 kids. We had 250 parents on stage that lost their kids. You could hear a pin drop in that place. It's completely overwhelming at this point. I know like 500 people who have lost their children, myself. And it's tough. It's overwhelming. When I go out on the road every night, it's like I go to bed in the fetal position thinking about this other family, these people that have gone through this terrible tragedy. And I want to tell you that there are no greater advocates and more powerful advocates than these people. I mean, they're tireless in their efforts. They wake up in the morning and their first thought is, how can I be of service today? How can I help some other family not have to experience the pain that I've experienced?
So people want to find out more, Jim, about the foundation and about having you come or having the movie shown at their school or whatever. Where would they go?
So for the movie, you can see the movie on YouTube. It's If Only the Movie. We also have ifonly.com, ifonly.org, I believe. But you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, anywhere else. You can reach out to us. I have a policy. And my policy is, and I really shouldn't say this on television, but my policy is, if you ask, we will come, right? We try not to say no. And then the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation is the markwalbergyouthfoundation.org or .com. There's grant applications up there if you're you're working with kids, and the focus of our foundation is trying to serve inner city youth because we are inner city youth. But whatever we can do to be helpful, we want to try to help.
Thank you so much for being with us, Jim.
Oh, thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more of Encounter right after this.